Upon arrival, they found a 18-year-old black female, Cynthia Jones, and a 68-year-old black female, Lizzie Parks, unconscious in a bedroom. Paramedics attempted to revive Miss Jones. With no success, she was transported to Jackson's ER, where she was pronounced dead on arrival. Lizzie Parks was revived. She was transported to the hospital and is currently in good condition.
What do you think may have been the cause?
The cause of the death is under investigation at this time. We're not sure. No foul play is expected.
This side of it? Well, I've been in the hospital, yeah.
In the first quarter of the game with no score, Miami in white, freshman quarterback Bernie Kosar rolls right. He hits Glenn Dennison, 2-yard touchdown. Miami on top, 7-0. Later in the first quarter, Miami leading now 10-0. Kosar, the freshman quarterback, hits Glenn Dennison over the middle. Dennison, the tight end, 21-yard touchdown run, 17-0 Miami at a shocker. Then came the play of the game. Quarterback Turner Gill of Nebraska leaves the snap on the ground. Dean Steinkuhler, who plays right guard, scoops up the ball. Steinkuhler, the Outland Trophy winner and All-American lineman, number 71, will rumble 20 yards for the touchdown. Miami had a 17-7 lead, and the fans would come to this Orange Bowl Classic. We're getting more than their money's worth. In the third quarter, Miami leading 24-17. Albert Bentley, 7-yard touchdown run. Miami with a commanding 31-17 lead. In addition to the score being on the wrong side, Nebraska suffered further injury. This man, their All-American Heisman running back, Mike Rozier, number 30, watched the left ankle. He is hit and goes down. Rozier had to leave the game, injured 147 yards rushing. With 57 seconds to go in the game, Miami leads 31-24. Turner Gill on a pitch out to Jeff Smith. Smith will go 24 yards. The touchdown, it was 31-30, Miami leading by 1. Now, would Nebraska go for 2 points or for the tie? They decide to go for it. Tom Osborne had made the call. 2 points would give them the victory in the national championship. Turner Gill at quarterback. He rolls. His throw bounces off of his receiver. Nebraska upset by Miami 31-30. I'm George Michael for NBC News.
First quarter action, no score, Ohio State in white. And that's quarterback Mike Tomczak with the keeper, scampering 3 yards for the touchdown. Ohio State led 7-0. In the second quarter, Pittsburgh quarterback John Conchemi rolls to his right, then throws to Clint Wilson with a leap, 7-7 on the 6-yard touchdown. Now we move to the fourth quarter. Pitt trails 14-7. Joe McCall sweeps to the right side. McCall will get hit at the 2-yard line, fumble the ball into the end zone, but Pitt's Clint Wilson recovers for the touchdown. That ties the game at 14. Now, this is the ensuing kickoff from Pitt to Ohio State. The man waiting back for it, Keith Byers. From the 1-yard line, Byers starts up the middle, finds a gap, and Byers cuts to the outside. He's on his way to a 99-yard kickoff return for the touchdown. Within 14 seconds, Ohio State took a 21-14 lead. But this game was far from over. Pittsburgh would come back with quarterback John Conchemi, here finding Dwight Collins for a 12-yard touchdown play. The 2-point conversion attempt failed. Ohio State led 21-20. Pittsburgh followed with a field goal for a 23-21 lead, but then with less than 50 seconds to go, Mike Tomczak fires a 39-yard touchdown pass to Thad Jamison. Ohio State defeats Pittsburgh 28-23. This is Scott Clark reporting for NBC News. Field goal, Illinois blocks it. Craig Swope picks it up for the Fighting Illini. He begins the return, but Harper Howell comes up with a hit. The loose ball, and UCLA recovers it inside the 15-yard line of Illinois. And the Bruins would take advantage. That's senior quarterback Rick Neuheisel. Neuheisel, after the snap, looks for Paul Bergman in the end zone. A 4-yard touchdown play gives UCLA a 7-0 lead. In the second quarter, UCLA leads 7-0. Kevin Nelson explodes through the line. He's on his way to a 28-yard touchdown run. With that, UCLA led 14-3. And the Bruins would score on their next possession. UCLA's Rick Neuheisel to Carl Dorrell for 16 yards. It was 21-3 Bruins. Then later, the Bruins put it away. Rick Neuheisel was blitzed here. He sees the blitz and hits Mike Young, who's all alone, for a 53-yard touchdown. With that, UCLA was on its way to a 45-9 victory over Illinois. This is Scott Clark reporting for NBC News.
We start in the first quarter. There's no score. The second-ranked Texas Longhorns in the light orange. Quarterback Rick McIver looks downfield. He finds his tight end, Bobby Mitchell, a 37-yard reception. That would set up the first of 3 Jeff Ward field goals. This one from 22 yards out. The Longhorns had a 3-0 lead. But the Georgia Bulldogs would pull off a surprise. They were trailing 9-3 late in the game when Texas, number 5, Craig Curry, fumbles the punt. It looks like Texas is going to recover it, but Georgia recovers it deep in Texas territory. And on the very next play, Georgia quarterback John Lastinger goes right side, 17-yard touchdown. Georgia upsets second-ranked Texas 10-9. I'm Michael Stone for NBC News.
Bo Schembechler rolled the dice early on 4th and 1 in his own 46 on Michigan's opening possession. But Gerald Robinson drops Rick Rogers short of first down yardage here, and Auburn takes over in great field position. But the Tigers commit a rare turnover, 1 of 4 in the game. Randy Campbell's pass is intercepted by Brad Cochran, and Michigan has the ball back at their own 37. And the Wolverines mount a march. Rick Rogers on the delay here heads outside and has a gain of 20 down to the Auburn 13. That set up this Steve Smith keeper for a 3-yard touchdown. 7:30 left in the first quarter, 7-0 Michigan. The Tigers appear to be coming back on their next possession. Lionel James and Bo Jackson ripping off big gainers. This one by Bo, the game's MVP, picks up 20 to the Michigan 32. Auburn got to the 19, but the drive is stopped on another costly turnover. Campbell with the fumble. Mike Hammerston recovers for the Wolverines. Early second quarter now, Lionel James is back to receive this Michigan punt. He will not call for the fair catch, and he cannot get the handle on the ball. Michigan with the recovery deep in Auburn territory. But the Tiger defense comes up with the big play. Smith back to pass. He's hammered by John Daly. The ball is loose. Auburn recovers to dodge a scoring threat, and the Tigers go to the locker room, trailing Michigan 7-0. Third quarter, Auburn finally gets on the board. Al Del Greco was on to boot this 31-yard field goal, and they go to the fourth with Michigan leading at 7-3. The Tigers then make a big break on the Wolverine end of the field. The blitz gets to Steve Smith here. Jeff Jackson with a hit. Greg Carr with the interception at the Michigan 39. Randy Campbell kept the drive alive with this run for a first down on 4th and 4 to the Wolverine 18. But the drive eventually stalls. Del Greco's on to boot another 31-yard field goal. With 8:51 remaining, it's 7-6 Michigan. Now, time running out, and Auburn mounts a last-minute drive. 4th and 2 here, the pitch to Lionel, and he gets a big first down to the Wolverine 39. Later, Tommy Agee up the middle. He looks to be stopped, but powers his way to the 5 for a 1st and goal. But the Tigers get no closer than the 3, and Del Greco's called on for a 19-yard field goal attempt. He boots it through with 24 seconds left in the game, and Auburn with a thrilling come-from-behind 9-7 win over Michigan in the 50th annual Sugar Bowl.
Mr. Granick accused the FMHA of denying loans to eligible applicants in the rural housing program due to the lack of processing of the applications. Mr. Ritchie says the Attorney General is misinformed.
Somewhere around here there's a pile of loans that I'm just sitting on capriciously and arbitrarily. I just want to make sure that everyone understands that that's not those facts are just erroneous.
The Attorney General also says that Mr. Richie Costa's state added revenue by returning to the federal government some $40 million in loan money not used in Alabama. Mr. Richie says the program requires that people repay the money they borrow from the FMHA, and they must meet requirements to be eligible for the money.
Nothing would make me happier than to be able to use every dollar that comes in here. But, you know, we have to use it within the constraints of the laws and the statutes. Some people may think just because the program exists that they may have an absolute right to have a home because it's a federal program. But it's a federal program designed to be repaid.
Mr. Richie says during his 3 years as director of the Alabama FMHA, his organization has lent nearly $200 million to low and moderate income families in the state and has returned almost $63.5 million to Washington in loan money that applicants didn't qualify for under federal regulations. Attorney General Charles Granick, apparently not convinced, says he'll pursue the case in a higher court. Don Phelps, WSFA TV News.
Mr. Richie sent back to Washington.
The 1980 suit alleged that Adams allowed blacks in, but they were either not served or forced to wait long periods for service. The new action charges that blacks were asked for multiple IDs. Another allegation in the action charges that blacks were forced to wear shirts and ties, while white patrons were neither required to show multiple IDs or follow the dress code. Attorneys Dolores Boyd and Kenneth Thomas represents the plaintiffs.
We're asking the court to specifically hold that Adams is violating an injunction that's been on the books since April 1980 when these practices were first brought to the court's attention in federal class action, and asking that the court grant damages in a substantial sum to our plaintiffs to make sure that this conduct is deterred.
And at this point in time, there are about 21 named plaintiffs, and that number could even reach to 100.
Officials at Adams referred requests today for comments on the suit to a manager who could not be reached. The case is expected to be heard in federal court in Montgomery within 60 days. This is Norman Lumpkin, WSFA TV News reporting.
Members of council, on November the 17th, 1983, the architect.
Mr. Mann?
Madam Chairman, we recommend we approve the planning commission.
There's a motion to suspend.
Three, hearing on proposed ordinance rezoning from B3 to A1 district R65M district, currently located northwest corner.
We got a mighty good team. I just wanted to mention that. Adams, all of them did, and I just.
Anyone in the council chamber that would like to speak for? Mr. Mann?
Madam Chairman, we recommend we approve the planning commission.
There's a motion to suspend.
Which developed the apartments and townhouses.
Resolution has been adopted. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Madam President.
We have standing by live with us now Chris Grimshaw in Auburn, and he has Coach Pat Dye. And Chris, it's got to be a concern, Coach Pat Dye, after today's polls.
Coach, what's your reaction to the number 3 position for Auburn following the win in the Sugar Bowl?
Well, naturally, we're disappointed. We felt like it, you know, based on our schedule and the people we played and what we've done throughout the season, that we had a chance to be number 1 after the turn of events yesterday. I'm happy for Howard Snellenberger in Miami, of course, because Howard's a personal friend of mine, and I know he's a great football coach, and they've done a tremendous job at Miami, and they can't be but one national champion. And
do you think people forgot that there were games prior to yesterday?
Well, I think that the way the thing was built up in the Orange Bowl, and you know, it was built up as a national championship game, and regardless of what happened yesterday, the one of the Miami-Nebraska game was probably going to be number 1. Whether that's right or not, I don't know.
When your top several teams all have identical records, what does this say to you about the need, perhaps, for a playoff system?
Well, I think a playoff system is the only way that you're going to ever get a true national champion. But Whether that's the thing to do for college football or not, I don't know.
At the beginning of the year, well, following your first loss, did you expect to see the year end out this way?
Well, I knew that we had a good football team if the young people kept improving, and they did. We had to solve our problems in the secondary, which we did, and solve our problems at center and fullback, and we did that. And we had solid people at every other position and some great athletes at certain spots. And, of course, they continued to play well throughout the year and got better. And we were fortunate we didn't have any key people hurt during the course of the year.
While the two more prestigious polls had you at number 3, the New York Times had you at number 1.
Well, the New York Times poll, of course, is one based on the difficulty of your schedule. And we've been number 1 in that poll for some time. And Gordon White, I guess, that starts that poll, had told us that if we won the rest of our games that we would stay at number 1, and that's what we did, of course.
Coach, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Chris Grimshaw along with Coach Pat Dye live from Auburn. And, of course, the bad news for Auburn tonight, they are number 3 in the poll, Bob. And what can you say? It just isn't fair, it doesn't seem.
Still number 1 in our poll.
That's
Thanks
right.
a lot. We'll be
David, for that very kind introduction. It is an honor to be introduced by one of our nation's most gifted journalists. David has been covering my campaign for some time, and with every day, my admiration for his skill increases. I have only one objection, but it is profound and is basic. David is the vice president of the press club. And if he had pursued his remedies, he would be the president of this organization in February. But he breached what, in my opinion, is one of the most sacred and cherished principles of American life when he deferred.
If they'll cooperate with us and do that, we made some emergency piping changes and some temporary pumping arrangements to try to cope with it. We'll be able to give them some water. We won't be able to provide them with the service that they're used to, but we'll be able to give them some water, enough that they'll, be able to have drinking water and, not be too inconvenienced, hopefully.
Midway through the first quarter, the Wolverines capitalized on a rare Auburn turnover as Steve Smith scores from the 3 on the quarterback keeper to make it 7-0. Turnovers, 4 of them on the night, kept the Tigers in trouble. Randy Campbell fumbles here. That stopped a Tiger drive that had penetrated deep in Michigan territory. But the Auburn defense would not let the Wolverines put it away. Smith back to pass here. He's popped by John Daly. The ball is loose, and Auburn recovers to quell another scoring opportunity. It was midway through the third before the Tigers finally got on the board with this 31-yard Al Del Greco field goal. Auburn cut it to 7-6 midway through the fourth on another Del Greco 31-yarder. Then late in the fourth, the Tigers mount the offensive drive of the year. The running of Campbell, Bo Jackson, Lionel James, and this determined effort by Tommy Agee got the Tigers inside the 5. Then with 27 seconds remaining, Del Greco boots this clutch 19-yarder, and Auburn wins the 50th Sugar Bowl game 9-7 over Michigan. Phil Snow in New Orleans was in the Happy Tiger locker room after the game.
Go, 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 on to victory, strike out the red. This Auburn team has sung its victory song for the 12 hours this year. It never sounded better.
I couldn't be any more proud of you if you'd have won 45-0. Now I'm telling you, because what you did and the way you did it is what's so important. And men, you're going to be in a lot of tough battles next year, year after year after year, individual battles with yourself. You won't have teammates with you. But if you'll just look back and think about that January the 2nd night in New Orleans, gain a little strength from it, it'll help you down the road.
On behalf of the Sugar Bowl, I'm only the president. We're presenting you all with the trophy champion of the Sugar Bowl 1984.
You've been voted by the press the outstanding player of the game. This has been awarded to you in memory of the 2 founding members and all of the deceased Sugar Bowl members. Those of us that are alive, are damn proud too.
I didn't come close to playing my best game, but I really, right this minute, I don't care. We won the game. That's all it counts.
15-play drive to finish it up, though. That wasn't bad.
Well, that's been the story of our team this year. It seemed like when we had to do something, we went and did it.
This is the best feeling I had in a long time, I tell you that. It just feels great to be on the winning team, and with a bunch of guys like Auburn got, I'll go to war with them anytime, I tell you that.
A little bit more than just players to me. They're very close. I'm going to miss them.
What you going to do tonight, big guy?
I don't know, just get a little rest, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
The best thing that ever happened when they sent Coach Dot down here. And that's all it was.
I hope you have a great career.
I hope so, too.
It'll be hard to top this night, though, won't it?
Yeah.
Was it a good snap?
Yeah, it was a good snap.
Did you know, where were you looking? You were looking between your legs when the ball went through the uprights?
I was on the ground under a big pile right there.
When did you sense that it was good?
When Jeff Ostrowski told me it was good, he pulled me up out of the bottom pile and said it was good. That's when I realized it.
I was so happy for Al Del Greco. He deserved it more than anything. Because
Isn't that great?
I tell you, I'm so happy for him. Happy for all of us.
Hey, Guy.
Everybody was coming up to me saying, "Come on, Al, you're going to make it. You know, we know you can do it." And then I got out on the field, and they called timeout, and everybody on the field came up to me and said, "Come on, Al, you know, you can do it. You can make it." And I was surprised because the timeout really didn't bother me like I thought it would. I knew they were going to call it. I don't know. It's just the best way that I could ever pick to end my career here.
This is Phil Snow for WSFA TV Sports from the New Orleans Superdome.
I mean, really and truly, our football team really deserves a little something more than being third in the nation when you look at the dang schedule they play. I mean, and you know the thing about it is that through the whole thing, you know, the whole process, our football team, I have not heard one derogatory remark. They're just glad to be there. You know, there hadn't been one iota of speculation, one not any bitterness, and I don't believe there will be when they find out we're third. I think they're going to be disappointed just like I am. But I'm going to tell you something else. In their heart deep down, they feel like they can beat anybody in the country. And I'm not so sure that they couldn't too.
As expected, not too many Auburn players were on the charter that landed in Montgomery this afternoon. In fact, Coach Dye even chose another route home from New Orleans. But for those that did make the trip, it was enjoyable to them to see the turnout of Tiger faithful.
There was no doubt among the Auburn fans as the team arrived here at Danley Field just who was number one. Who is it, gang? But there's no doubt in your mind who's number one then, is there?
Ain't no doubt about it. Auburn, all the way, number one. They deserve to be number one.
I definitely believe they deserve to be number one. They've beaten everybody they played except for Texas, and I tell you, the Longhorns don't want to play them again.
If you take in consideration who we've beaten and our schedule all year, and then we lost to Texas early in the year, the opponents, the people that we've beaten and who they played during the year, then there shouldn't be any question who's number one.
I'm probably biased saying that I think we do, only because I play for Auburn, and, you know, we did play the toughest schedule in the country. You know, in the same sense, Miami has a legitimate gripe to say that they are, because they did beat Nebraska.
Cries of War Eagle and we're number one apparently fell on deaf ears as far as the pollsters were concerned. But to those that root for Auburn, this 1983 squad will always be national champions.
The study lists Alabama as one of 11 states with the worst records for reducing the number of infant deaths, and it places the blame on the growing number of poor people in the country and on federal cutbacks to prenatal and child health care programs. Dr. Rodney Durand, a neonatologist at Baptist Medical Center in Montgomery, has long said Alabama is not doing nearly enough.
The effectiveness of the programs that are here for the dollars that the taxpayer is spending are very good. We have a very high efficiency rate for the number of dollars. But we know that Florida, who puts in $35 million a year, and North and South Carolina that put in $15 to $20 million a year, have a much lower infant mortality rate, and they have a better organized system. You get what you pay for.
Even state health officials agree. Jim McVeigh is the director of primary prevention.
Well, certainly the federal government has made significant cutbacks, and we have relied very heavily on federal funding, but the state of Alabama has not funded preventive medicine the way surrounding states have. That's correct.
The study was based on a Surgeon General's plan to significantly cut infant mortality in the country by 1990. What the study suggests is that as a nation, we're already falling far short of that goal. And for now, despite steady progress over the years, state officials say there is little hope Alabama will even make it up to the national average for infant mortality without significant changes in where state lawmakers are willing to spend money. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News. The study says growing poverty and federal cuts to child health programs are the big causes for a nationwide failure to effectively deal with infant mortality. The study was based on a Surgeon General's plan to significantly cut infant mortality in the country by 1990. What the study suggests is that as a nation, we're already falling far short of that goal. Alabama is listed along with 10 other states as having the most severe problems. One reason, according to state health official Jim McVeigh, is low state funding.
Well, certainly the federal government has made significant cutbacks, and we have relied very heavily on federal funding, but the state of Alabama has not funded preventive medicine the way surrounding states have.
And neonatologists like Baptist Medical Center's Dr. Rodney Durand don't have much hope that state lawmakers will increase funding to prenatal health programs.
The basic problem is that children in Alabama aren't a priority.
Why?
One of the reasons, they don't vote. They don't vote.
So without increased funding from either the state or federal government, Experts here suggest it will be very hard for Alabama's infant mortality rate to reach even the national average. Tom Foreman, WSFA TV News.
Crop insurance.
That's right.
If we could reinstitute the disaster in kind, here I combined the PIC program and disaster program.
Farm prices are going to sink, I believe, unless you're lucky. And it's this stop and go, no stability, no predictability. That's what I just said this morning. Farmers aren't asking anybody to guarantee them prosperity. We're asking for a farm program that's managed sensibly so we got some predictability and steadiness so you can bank on it. A lower percentage of their income than any people on earth. And these farmers, my idea there is to strengthen the office in the White House that run the whole, and then make certain.
If we're going to give them a grant for $10,000, then they must be able to demonstrate that they have funds or resources available to match that $10,000 grant. And I think that that will provide sort of an insurance policy that the people that are going to be applicating for us will be using the money wisely. And certainly a child that is abused generally grows up to be an abusive parent. And probably if we took a survey of those individuals, both men and women in our penal institutions, a large number of them, if probably not the majority of them, have been victims of abuse during their formative years.
So by cutting down on child abuse, perhaps you cut down on crime and other problems in the future.
That's correct.
Yes, sir, you cut that line? Hey, bring them both up. Hurry up, bring them both up.
Alabama Christian President Dr. Ernest Clevenger says the unemployment tuition grant program is one of the first of its kind in the state and is one of a few such programs nationwide. He calls it a program for expansion and exploration.
So if a person who has been, say, in retail sales decides that they would like to become an accountant or would like to try some other field, this will give them an opportunity without any cost to see whether they like the subject or not.
Beginning January 30th, unemployed workers will have the opportunity to sign up for any course offered by Alabama Christian with no tuition charge. The only requirements are that you be at least 18 years old, have a high school diploma, have worked full-time for at least 2 years, and have been unemployed for less than a year. Dr. Clevenger says while the program is not expected to be a cure-all for unemployment, he does expect it to help.
We think we will perform a service to the community and at the same time enable some of these people to find a niche where they can go back to work.
Dr. Clevenger says several people have already called about the program, and if it's successful this spring, it will continue. The program will also be offered at the school's 5 branch campuses. Lois Russell, WSFA TV News.
Most of them will have been out of school for several years. We even have 5 MDs in our law school who've already would like to build on a base that they have had but have not been able to complete their education. We also will allow participate in that week program. Nobody's participating.
Well, in the case of cotton, Mr. Mondale, we've got 5% of the produce.
It's like a 25% tax on anything produced by an American farmer and a 25% subsidy for anybody competing with it. So we're being driven off the international market, and we got to make certain we don't destroy that system. We're in Iowa, and he said 4 years ago there were 20 young farmers in that county. He said every one of them's gone now. He said I'm the last one left. He said I'm not going to be able to make it because those interest rate charges, commodity.
Last year, when the big college football names were selected in the first USFL draft, the Infant League didn't expect to get many of them, but they surprised some by signing Kelvin Bryant and Tim Spencer. Now in this second year, there's more money, more teams, and more optimism.
I don't think I can really begin to explain how exciting today is and what we look forward to for the 1984 season. The kind of way the draft has gone today, you can see the kind of emphasis that's been put on each individual team, on the players they've selected.
The 6 expansion teams led by the Pittsburgh Maulers selected first with a draft pick and a territorial pick. The Maulers surprised no one with their choice.
Selection in the first round, Mike Rozier, running back, Nebraska.
If the Maulers are able to pull off a coup and sign Rozier, that would make 2 Heisman Trophy winners in a row going to the new league. Herschel Walker became a New Jersey General after his junior year at Georgia. And Pittsburgh's general manager George Hedleston says his team will make a competitive bid for Rozier's services. And the league is banking on its bank book.
So I think there is going to be money. Obviously, the competition that will exist between us and the National Football League for these players. And again, we're going selectively after the players that are needed.
I'm really amazed, Phil, that this team has won 5 games on the road. We played 9 out of the first 11 on the road, and they won 5 games already. And we have 7 wins, and I'm really happy with them.
How about Alabama? What do you have to do?
Well, I think one thing, we've got to shoot the basketball. And we've got to keep Alabama from shooting at the rate that they've been shooting. They're an outstanding shooting team. And they got overall team balance. This is a very good basketball team that they have. And I think we're fairly equal on the board, and I think we're fairly equal in a lot of ways. But right now, in shooting the basketball and shooting free throws, they're way ahead of us. And we've got to cut down on that, and yet we can't have one of those valley nights for ourselves shooting.
Duck in. Good job, Blue. Good job, Blue. Yeah. Good job, Blue.
It's about 80% now. The main thing right now, the muscles are just very weak because I haven't been able to practice in a long time. I just started back to practice, and it's just a gradual process to strengthen the muscles back up in my back.
How about your physical condition?
I'm not in good condition now, but it's coming along slowly. That's going to take time also. It's just a matter of time, really.
Going against Bobby Lee Hurt, going to help that any?
That'll make me about 120%. I look forward to playing him every time. And he's kind of killed me the last 2 times, so I'm really looking forward to this game.
Are you gonna tell him that you're injured now and for him to take it easy on you?
No, I wanted to take it easy though. That I might play better. I'm just looking forward to that game. It's a big game for us, and I believe we're gonna win.
Banking, insurance,
the problems of child abuse have grown enough to convince the state legislature to pass a package of bills creating the Child Abuse and Neglect Board and a way to fund the board. Line 34C on your income tax form. Line 34C lets you donate part of your tax refund to the Child Abuse Trust Fund. Montgomery Circuit Judge Mark Kennedy is chairman of the Child Abuse Board, which will then use that trust fund money to help private agencies which focus their efforts on this problem.
If we're going to give them a grant for $10,000, then they must be able to demonstrate that they have funds or resources available to match that $10,000 grant. And I think that will provide sort of an insurance policy that the people that are going to be applicating for us will be using the money wisely. And certainly a child that is abused generally grows up to be an abusive parent. And probably if we took a survey of those individuals, both men and women in our penal institutions, a large number of them, if probably not the majority of them, have been victims of abuse during their formative years.
So by cutting down on child abuse, perhaps you cut down on crime and other problems in the future.
That's correct.
The checkoff box on line 34C will stay there until the Child Trust Fund reaches $10 million several years from now. Then the board will use the interest from the trust in the same way. Chris Grimshaw, WSFA TV News.
For the number 11 ranked Georgia Bulldogs, it was the first Southeastern Conference matchup of the year. And the 71-57 win over Tennessee was led by the duo that has been leading them all year. Senior forward James Banks with 22 and senior guard Vern Fleming with 20. But it was defense that pulled the Dogs out of a 34-34 halftime tie and let them pull away in the second half. In the final 20, Tennessee was held to only 23 points, while Georgia outscored the Volunteers 14-4 during one 6-minute stretch. Georgia also hit 21 of 23 free throws in the second half, while limiting Tennessee to only 6 second-half field goals. Tennessee's scoring was led by center Willie Burton with 11, but 10 of his points came in the first half before the Bulldog defense got stingy.
Well, we really got after them defensively and forced them to turn the ball over a couple of times. Then, of course, we put pressure on them to run some time off the clock, and then before they could get into the offense, we were just about eating up the 45-second clock for them. And then, of course, they couldn't get in their offense, and they took some bad shots, and we got the rebound. And then, of course, that picked the tempo up of the ball game, and that's the way we love to play the game.
The win was Georgia's third straight over Tennessee, dating back to last season.
Former Vice President Mondale and the mayor paraded into the news conference following a private meeting. The questions leaned slightly away from presidential issues and toward why the first black mayor of Alabama's largest city didn't endorse Jesse Jackson.
My support of Mr. Mondale is based on my belief in his candidacy, what he has stood for over the years. He's certainly no newcomer to us, not here in Alabama and not in the nation. And in no way does it detract from my friendship with Jesse Jackson. With the legitimate aspirations he has, I think his candidacy will serve to focus on some important issues.
Mayor Arrington, who proposed the Mondale-Jackson ticket endorsed at the recent Alabama Democratic Conference convention, says he'll take that idea even further.
But yes, some of us are definitely committed to working for Jesse Jackson's as the vice presidential candidate, and I think you will see that effort made at the convention in San Francisco.
Public Service Commissioner Jim Folsom Jr., legislators, and city and county officials joined the mayor in his endorsement. The campaign stopped by Tuscaloosa before swinging out of the state into Georgia. Dennis Latham, WSFA TV News, Birmingham.
The Community Service Project is a program that uses inmate labor to do various jobs in cities and counties located near state correctional facilities or work release programs. Commissioner Fred Smith says the program isn't new, but it is being beefed up.
From one end of the state to another, people tell me, why don't we see the inmates out working like we used to see them? And you're going to see them. Well, they're out today working, as a matter of fact, but you're going to really see them in the future.
Commissioner Smith is asking this group of people to help the department with the service project. They're members of the Prison Systems Regional Advisory Committee.
Some of these people in this meeting today are going to be looking for public works projects for us to do, for us, whatever needs to be done in cities all over the state. Ditches need to be dug, any kind of manual labor. Of course, we have many talented inmates. And we hope by this summer we can get many boards of education to let us come in while the school kids are away to paint, whatever needs to be done, electrical wiring, anything needs to be done in schools throughout the state.
The committee's job isn't limited to the service project, though. It will serve as a public relations body for the Corrections Department. Commissioner Smith says he expects the group to help bridge the gap of communication between the Corrections Department and the public. Today, the group was briefed on prison system operations and goals so that they can go back to their various communities and spread the word. Lois Russell, WSFA TV News.
And I've heard many persons say this, perhaps even Doc Jr. Major campaigns were waged in Alabama. And as we come to the days or the day of that birthday, we should recommit ourselves. We commit ourselves, and first we got to understand what Martin